Reverend Sue to talk about enjoy yourself.
Good morning again, and I'm so happy to see you here, the quiet, reflective ones, as you're known. I don't know if you know that you 9 o'clock people have a reputation that is intimidating, to say the least. There's an idea I want to start with this day. Enjoy yourself. My focus, my passion is to, before I give up my position as your co-pastor, let me wear that hat, is to instill into you the privilege of what it means to be of service, what that means, why we put that call out, and what it means when it opens our hearts to the moments that you respond to that call. And there has been this idea that started, and I'm going to give you a little history of how Seva, what that word means, and why I'm so passionate about that word, and why I choose to continue to be the champion of what that means, because it's so much more than volunteering your time, than volunteering. Volunteering takes me into feeling like I'm going to get a little pin, a little badge that says I have, accomplished so many hours. And I suppose that's from the beautiful work that all of the volunteers do at the hospital. So I probably have a little bit of a prejudice against just volunteering, because that volunteering is always filled with great service and great heart. It is the same. But then when we speak of Seva, we're taking this act of service to the world, service to the one, into a spiritual practice, into an idea that it is infused with prayer. As you do your work, it's not that you show up to be seen. It's that you have an opportunity to do what's called in the ancient text of the Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga, to reveal this idea of God inspired by means of your hands and heart into the work that is necessary in the world to create a planet of such peace and joy. Paramahansa Yogananda says this of service: life should be chiefly service. Without that ideal, the intelligence that God has given you is not reaching out toward its goal. When in service, you forget the little self. You feel the big self, the big, capital S self of the Spirit. As the vital rays of the sun nurture all, so should you spread rays of hope in the hearts of the poor and the forsaken, kindle courage in the hearts of the despondent, and light a new strength in the hearts of those who think that they are failures. When you realize that life is a joyous battle of duty and at the same time a passing dream, and when you become filled with the joy of making others happy by giving them kindness and peace, in God's eyes, your life is a success. And so when we long to know our purpose, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my divine purpose? What is my appointment in this life? And then you follow the callings of your heart and you show up. And what you feel when we call for seva or selfless service to the one, when we allow ourselves to show up in that space, what we are creating is God's love and what is known in the yogic terms as a Shakti, as a glow, as a sparkle, that those that are despondent don't quite know what touched them, but they walk into our sanctuary, they walk on our grounds, and they say, I have been forever changed. Something shifted in me. And it's what we leave in every opportunity of whether we're tending to the grounds, straightening the chairs, adjusting the buttons on the sound, sitting at tables, cooking brownies, whatever it is, It's filled with this Shakti, with this love, with this power, with this tangible source of the One sprinkled down in our world around us, so everything sparkles with this delight and this love. And it's a working ground. It's a working ground as you are the one in service, as you are the one partaking of that opportunity. You're leaving your good. You're leaving your good sprinkled around so that others can benefit from the time and the care that you chose in that moment to give of yourself. And so there's Tagore is a mystical poet, and he says, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. So this is so tangible to me because I can feel it in here, and this is what moves me. Sometimes you think, she's so hormonal because I always cry up here. But I get so moved by that element of joy that just touches my heart so much because, at the 10:30 service when the choir sings, I'm always blubbery. When we have the musicians perform, I seen this opportunity of they're digging into their souls and they're saying, this is what I want to offer with great love and heart. When I see the same people show up time and again to be of service, to say, I will be the lead of that team. My heart goes to Doug Hoiber. He was on the board many years ago, but he has taken on, I'll be the usher and the greeter, and he shows up so faithfully, and he'll tap you on the shoulder. Would you like to receive the money today? Oh, heck yeah. I'll stand and receive the baskets. Will you greet the people at the door and usher them in and let them feel loved and welcomed here? You see, we each have a duty, a call, a responsibility. And it's with dignity that we hold ourselves up and say, you know what, I'm a part of this. I'm a part of this. I'm a part of this Shakti. I'm a part of this love and this grace. It's me here. I have infused it with my hours of labor, my hours of earning money out in the community, and choosing to funnel my money through here for a greater good to unfold. So you give yourself to the situation or to another that is here. The practitioners and the ministers, they offer themselves to each and every one of you. Every single week we stand here, we put our scarves on, and we say, I'm here for you. What do you need? What do you need to see a greater idea unfolding in your life? We know your truth. Take my hand, take my heart, and let me lead you into that greater knowing and that understanding. It's part of our soul's purpose. It's our calling to reach out and help. And we know that. We all have that call. We all have that urge. The moment that we see something in the news that stirs us, we want to funnel our money. We want to go there. We want to help. We want to reach out and make it right and make it better. Diana asked me, what I was struggling with this morning, and I'm distracted because our Reverend Barbara is so invested with her spiritual work at the Ukraine and all of this news about the Ukraine. And I'm speaking to Charlie as soon as I wake up. What's happening there? How can we send the love, the peace that we know is into a community that is at a very amazing turning point in their world? How can we not turn our back but keep looking in that direction and hold Barbara and all of her wonderful people into a space of safety and light? And so, you see, our work begins here. We create it here, but we create such a reservoir, such a savings account of love that then when it's called upon in the world where we see that it's a need that we need to pour our attention to there, we are here, we are ready. Gandhi says the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Sacred service is a spiritual practice because it is love that is manifested. Isn't that wonderful to know that within your heart you have this love that is being manifested and you look for nothing in return? You're not looking for any sort of accolade or thank you. But you want yourself to be that empty, that willing, that ready. It's taking you outside yourself into a realm of being with what is. Be with what is and listen to what is next to do in your world. Pick up something. Do something. Keep your eyes and your heart open. When I was in the food line the other day, sometimes people can say, oh, you're just so codependent. You just want to fix things. But sometimes it's that call when you see, Charlie and I were in the food line at the hospital, and the gentleman was, trying to he had just one little cordon bleu thing on his plate and a drink that he was trying to carry, but I could tell that his back was in such pain because his knees kept giving out, and they were taking a long time at the register. And I told Charlie, I says, do we have enough money to pay for his meal so I can go sit him down? I was struggling so much, I don't even know what they've served me because I was watching him. But he made it through the line, and then he was trying to fill up one more drink, and it's like, let me carry your food. Let me get you someplace safe. You see, these moments are everywhere in our community. Where can I pick up for someone and help them on their journey? Let love lead the way. This is what selfless service is. This is why the idea of seva is so important, because seva itself is a spiritual practice where you're continually listening to that divine urge to make better for those around you. So you take yourself into the realm of seeing what is before you and acting, being the hands of God and the heart that stirred you in that moment to act. It is our nature. It is our nature, again, to respond to our world in any time of crisis. So allow yourself to recognize this is just part of my wiring. And don't dampen down that good as it starts to charge you. Don't deny or second guess yourself in the call to serve. Allow yourself to witness it, and then allow that ache inside of you to make a difference. Allow your good to be shared and to passed on. It's all adding up, all those wonderful random acts of kindness. It is the healing. It is the healing, and it is the energization of the spirit within you that answers that call to serve. So, it's interesting when you get obsessed with your own self, when you get obsessed with your own needs or problems or issues that are going on inside of you, it's even a time to then get involved, get outside yourself, because this is an opportunity to present service in a way that will heal you. It'll allow you to be that conduit of the giving of service, and therefore this therapy of love will transform you. So, when I first started, how this first started in our center was through Reverend Dr. James Golden. He was very involved with the teachings of Swami Muktananda and Guru Mai. And he would take he would be spiritually fed by going to the ashram that they had in Oakland. And when you would go there, they would right away have you channel you into an area where you could do some service, some kind of work in the kitchen to chop vegetables or to clear the ways or to set the chairs in a certain way. It was just part of the call when you went down to be with Guru Mai. It just was. When you visit any ashram, and this is, an ashram is just a spiritual home, and that's what we have here. We call it our center, but it's what builds that Shakti, that grace, that love, and that's what's felt at an ashram when you enter in, because so many busy hands and hearts have been preparing the way. And so it creates it perfectly for each and every one of you. So this is what happens here, and this is what Dr. Golden witnessed when he went to the ashram. So he brought that idea back here. And we started, changing our idea, changing our concept of volunteering to this greater idea, so that it was a spiritual practice that was infused with a prayer of our heart, with a sense of deepening the awareness of who we are here in service. And so it started to grow. And what is so beautiful, you know, I guess I'm a little sensitive because there was a question, how can we stir this idea to all of you to want to be a part of this greater community in the hands of Seva? And Reverend Robinson said that we need to communicate it in a way that you would understand. And, you know, then the ideas were coming back to me, perhaps we should change that word. And this is where I got real stubborn. No, we're not changing that word. And because when I looked up on all the sites, this is because it's such part of our history. We started it in the Centers for Spiritual Living movement, through the religious science movement, because Dr. James was the president of the organization for several years. And so he took this concept of spiritual service out into a greater understanding to all the different communities around the country and the world. And now when you check their websites, there's Seva websites everywhere. How can we serve? How can we find this level of spiritual practice? I meditate, I pray, and now I serve. And I serve with this pure intention of heart. So when I first was called into this idea, into this arena, it was when computers were first coming on board. And I remember James said to me, why don't you just input on the computer everybody's pledge? And I went, say what? Like a computer? I was just like really frightened. I mean, the computer was this real big thing with paper that came out like data, like big sheets of things that came out, and you could just, I felt like if I touched that, I was going to mess up the world. And so I was willing, but I was so slow. I knew how to type, but I would peck, and then ask him, did I do this right? Like so needy. And then he'd say, yes, you did it right. And then I think he was really sorry he asked, because I was in his office every 2 minutes. Now how am I? Am I doing good? And it took me a while to just simply relax with this new mental equivalent that he saw for me, that I would be gifted at doing this entry, this data entry. But it was a beginning for me. And so oftentimes I recognize there's a shyness when we first enter a new idea of ourselves in service. But that we have team captains and we have seasoned people that have been doing Seva for so many years that they're just standing with open arms, ready to welcome you into their fold, to show you what they enjoy doing, and they want to invite and invoke that same grace of good inside of you. Albert Schweitzer says, I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. Albert Schweitzer. Every great leader, every spiritual guide and master teacher continues to welcome you into that fold of serving. It reminds us of our interconnectedness. You are a part of the whole. You are a part of all of this. Some people feel like, well, nobody talked to me at church today. But you could feel like, did I reach out from my heart? What was I holding? And did I allow myself to even ask if I could help in the kitchen, if I could help the ushers? That sound team, those guys are kind of cute. Maybe I can go help with them. You know, there's just all these ways that you can say, I want to meet more people. Well, step outside yourself and reach out. This is the way. This is the way the call begins. So you serve with love and you know your oneness. You see, what I speak to is a holy ground. It's a sacred service, and you're not leading the way, God is. That's the beauty. The heart of God that dwells within you, you become the hands of God that reach out from that. This giving service brings us into the state of pure joy. That's where this talk is about enjoying yourself. Enjoy yourself in this state of service. And why, as I go deeper into the concept of spiritual practice, what is that? It's not just murmuring a prayer to yourself or repeating a mantra or a sacred phrase. It's also where you sort out some of your stuff that you brought in with you when you came in to serve. And last week my talk was on forgiveness, and this particular story from William Martin dovetails with an area where Seva, when you're invested in your work and you're working with other people and you're saying, hey, Sue said to join this team, but they're irritating, and you could, that might come up for you. Your chosen group might be irritating to you. What's that all about? There, again, is a spiritual call. It's inviting you to polish that because you're working in a small community of people where one person in that group might be rubbing you the wrong way. And so it's where you put your spiritual effort into practice. And so here's this story. The monastery was located in the foothills just outside the Oregon coastal town. It was a relatively new monastery, only about 15 years old, but the strong leadership of Master Dave had attracted a following of 15 dedicated monks, both men and women, who worked diligently building simple hermitages for people on retreat, maintaining gardens, landscape team, cooking, social hall, cleaning team, meditating, meditation practices, and keeping the strict rules of the monastic life. That would be me. One young monk, however, was ambivalent. Part of him wanted to find peace and freedom through the rigorous discipline of the monastery, yet another part of him missed the pleasures of society. How many of you have been there? I really want to do this spiritual practice and give up bunco, but part of me is still called to bunco. So he devised a strategy by which he hoped he could satisfy both parts. Several evenings each week, he would wait until everyone was asleep and then sneak out of his hermitage, quietly open the gate, walk the 2 miles into town, where he would enjoy an hour or two of food, drink, and music in the company of women. And he would sneak back to his hermitage in the early morning hours and try to sleep for a few hours before the morning bell. It wasn't as clever as he thought. The other monks found out that he was breaking the rules. Oh, we all murmur, the rules. And one by one, they went to Master Dave and complained. Now, here's where I sit in my office, okay? He has made a mockery of our monastery, they said. You have to get rid of him. Master Dave nodded and said quietly, I'll take care of it. The next time the monk silently opened the gate and sneaked through it, he found Master Dave sitting on a stump waiting for him with a heavy coat draped across his lap. Master Dave smiled and handed him the coat, saying, It is cold tonight, and a long walk into town. Here, wear my coat. You can hang it on the hook outside my door when you return. With that, Master Dave bowed to the young monk and went back inside. The young monk was astonished and embarrassed. He didn't know what to do. Finally, he put on the warm coat, walked slowly into town. He remained at the corner bar only a short while, lost in thought, oblivious to music and company, and he walked back to the monastery, hung up Master Dave's coat, and went to the meditation hall. The next morning, as the monks filed into the hall, they found the young monk still there, deep in meditation. Later in the day, each of the other monks came to Master Dave and voiced their outrage. You said you'd get rid of him. How's that feel? I said I would take care of it, Master Dave replied, and I did. You mean he's going to stay? They said in astonishment. Of course he's going to stay. He wants to find freedom. Where else can he go? Replied Master Dave. What if he continues to break the rules and sneak out? Then I'll continue to lend him my coat, said Master Dave. The monks were angry and frustrated, and this was unacceptable. They wanted rules to be taken seriously, and by the end of that day, 14 of them packed their belongings and left. They each traveled in search of a monastery where rules would be enforced. As they traveled, they spread the story of the horrible state of the discipline at Master Dave's monastery. Only Master Dave and the young wayward monk remained. What shall we do? The young monk asked. Tend to the garden, cook your meals, clean up, chop our wood, and meditate, said Master Dave. Together they worked in meditative silence from morning until night, tending the garden, cooking their meals, cleaning up, chopping wood, and meditating. By the time the young monk returned to his hermitage in the evening, he was too tired to even consider the walk into town. He was concerned. He knew that 2 of them could not keep the monastery open for long, but each morning he awoke eager to spend his day in work and service. A week passed. One Wednesday afternoon, a young woman arrived at the gate, and she said she had heard the story of Master Dave's coat. She asked if she could be a part of a monastery where forgiveness was the rule. Master Dave welcomed her. Several days later, 2 older men arrived. They traveled over 1,000 miles after hearing about Master Dave's coat and asked if they could please stay. By the end of 6 months, the monastery housed 30 monks. The monastery thrived, and many people came to enjoy times of retreat in the company of the joyful group of monks. New buildings were built, new gardens were planted, the rules remained: silence, work, discipline, schedules, rituals, and the like. The rules were seldom broken. When they were, the monks all smiled to themselves and thought of Master Dave's coat still hanging outside his door, a constant reminder of the forgiveness waiting in a compassionate heart. Isn't that a powerful story? So why do I share that in line with Seva? Because sometimes, like I say, this is a community. We aren't all saints here, and we might rub each other a little bit wrong. We might say the wrong thing, but in a very compassionate, skillful way, we hang our coat on a hook to recognize that the heart is always open to forgiveness. A heart is always open to understanding. Our heart is always open to love. And so as we continue to build on the energy and the Shakti and the grace of Seva in our center, we recognize globally that it is reaching out into all the communities around this world. And in that knowing, it is a spiritual practice. And so we have the opportunity for you. You can come back at 10:30. It's going to be wild and crazy. I have no idea what's going to happen. People are coming in costumes, and they're coming just ready for a good time, and they keep looking at me, and I'm thinking, I don't know. We're not at 10:30 yet, so we'll see what happens. But right now, Diana, in all of her talent and careful preparation, has prepared all the different teams that we have down the hall, and you can say, you know, those guys are cute in the sound booth. I do want to help them out. That Doug is a nice guy. I do like brownies. And so you find out where that speaks to you, and you put your name. And when you put your name, you've put your form, you've put your stamp, you've put your heart in this community. And guaranteed, we're going to call you. And guaranteed, your spirit's going to grow. Your spirit's going to shine. Because that's what Seva is. Thank you, God. And so it is.
This morning to talk to us about enjoying ourselves.
Beautiful treatment. Good morning. I have no responsibility for how this day unfolds. To be clear on that. Notice who's missing, Reverend Mary. So I see a couple of these beautiful friendship packets in a couple of people's hands, and I honor you for being here today, but please come again. Because there's craziness that's going to happen here today, because this is about enjoying ourselves as a community. And it's so interesting. This idea was birthed out of a vision of, and a request and a longing for those that have been historically here for years. Some of us have been members at this center for well over 20 years. And in that time, we have invested our heart and soul and our hands and our minds and our intentions into creating the beauty and the intention that holds love at the very center of the sanctuary, the grounds, the offices, the social hall, the parking lot. Every piece is sprinkled with this divinity of our hearts. And so we know that because we were infused with that years and years ago. And it was brought to us by Dr. James Golden, because he discovered it when he visited an ashram. And when you walk into the doors of an ashram, they invite you into selfless service. They invite you right away to be a part of what you feel radiating through their space. And so many feel here, we have heard this testimony time and again, I arrive and I feel like I'm home. I feel love here. When I walk the grounds, I find peace. What's going on there? And I'm so fed, not only by the message, thank you God, but by the social hall. You know, I am so fed here in so many ways. So what I have invited all the teams to do is to show up today and champion your team. And this gives those of you that say, I want to join a team. I'm not on a team. Oh, you can be. And in your program, there's little pieces of paper for you to take out a pen. And if you don't have a pen, oh my gosh, we'll bring you one. But you can sign your name and say, oh, I love that choir when they held up that sign, I'm joining now. Well, you find their poster along the wall and you tag your name. However, a little note to those that are on the usher greeter team. As you noticed, Doug creates art. He doesn't want you to stick anything on his art. So he put, as only Doug would do, a small poster beneath for you to tag your name. And so Doug's worried that something's going to happen to his art. But we're evolved enough to know where to stick her, right? More on that later as it evolves. So, but I want to get to the heart of the talk here today. And so this is about enjoying yourself. So I don't know why I'm going to do this, but I am, because I can, because Mary's not here. And so part of what we build here is love. And so love is a feeling that just infuses like a vapor, like a breath, like a truth. And we feel that in our heart. What else is right next to love is joy. So I'm going to invite you to fill this space with joy, because we're here to enjoy ourselves. You are the hee-hees. You are the ha-has. You are the ho-hos. Hee-hee, ha-ha, ho-ho, uh-oh. How does that make you feel? Stupid? I do. Oh, well, so that's only a piece. How many people are here for the first time today? Will you please come? So we're talking about selfless service to God, and that was just a moment in time where you gave up yourself into the joy. I don't know what you brought in with you today. You could have been feeling a little bit on edge, a little bit like, when's my part going to happen? All of these things are a part of the creativity of the one, and it just explodes at the time the divine appointment calls on you. So this idea of enjoying yourself through selfless service to the one. It's a call inward. It's a call for you to say, I want to be a part of that. I want to give of myself in spiritual practice to something greater than the small world I've been living in with my own mind. It allows you to step into the glory of allowing your service to come from your heart into the hearts of all of us. And there was a beautiful quote by Guru Mai that says, when you consider work And this is what our center is based on. When you consider work as divine service, when your work, even your livelihood, when you consider your work as divine service, you can do it anywhere, at any time. It's an offering to God, an offering to the truth. Seva is uplifting your own self, your own people, your own world. It is embracing God's creation. It is alchemy. It is transformation. It is a spiritual path. It is a spiritual journey. And when you anoint your work with the grace of God moving through you, when you allow your being to be filled with love as you offer your heart in service to many, you will see this transformation. You will see what is called in the yogic world this Shakti, this grace, this love, this energy, this and that which I cannot put a name to, but I can feel it, and it makes my pulse beat, and it makes my heart beat, and it makes me want to hold up a sign and say, join the choir. It is those pieces inside of us that stirs us. And Ernest Holmes says, this is from one of his diaries that you can read on a daily basis. And on October 3rd, he says, I do not labor. I work for the glory of God and the good of my fellow man. From Matthew in the Bible, it says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So this idea of allowing the idea of work to be transformed into the idea of service wherever we turn to. And wherever we go, guess what shows up with us? Our own mind. Oh boy. So when you're there in the opportunity saying, I'm going to go do seva with the children's church today, when you say these, when you offer yourself in that way, and then you show up and you've got other things going on inside yourself, but you still show up. And I like this idea that our mind is carried with us in this opportunity when you invest yourself in this selfless love and this selfless act of serving the one. Again, this alchemy, this shift, this change lifts you out of that doldrum. And there was a beautiful story from the book My Lord Loves a Pure Heart. And this is so interesting because we bring this part of our mind with us, remember. So here's the story. I'm trying to find it. Because we're talking about, from the Bhagavad Gita, this is what's known as the karma yoga, the work of dealing with resolving issues, bringing your life situation into an arena where you can feel that it will be transformed. So this idea of fearlessness that it takes to unveil the beauty of this greater self. The Most High, there was a mystic that says, the Most High is absolutely without measure, as we know, and yet a human heart can enclose him entirely. With the same sense of wonder, one of the scriptures exclaims, O Lord, you have hidden yourself in the body of a human being. What a mystery. What a mystery. You have hidden yourself in a human being. This mystery of call to transform, to awaken. And yet there's this part of us that even though we are showing up ready to do our spiritual practice, ready to do this idea of spiritual service, this is one of the highest callings of the human experience. And there's this story, I loved this because you can see the transformation of a single act, even when you're feeling pulled by your mind, agitated by something that's going on in your world. Again, think about the alchemy, the transformation, the shift, the arena of greater love that you're inviting yourself into following this story. Once there was a young man that fell madly in love with someone who did not return his affection. He was in such desperate shape that he couldn't think of anything else. He found no joy in anything. He was beside himself, and finally one of his friends told him about the magician who lived out on the outskirts of town. The young man went directly there and appealed to the magician for help. The magician had dark eyes, and they glowed with an unnatural light. And he said, if you really want me to help you, then you must follow my instructions to the letter. That's already a setup, isn't it? I will, the young man cried. I'll do anything. I just want to get over this awful feeling. Now, have you sometimes come to the center on a day where you've had an awful feeling and you just want to get over it? You came here to hear a message, to hear a greater understanding, a greater truth. Maybe it didn't come through the message. Maybe it came by the kindness of someone that greeted you at the door. I want you to see how many ways this seva, this service, this idea of offering our hearts to one another is part of the greater whole in transformation. And the man says, I will, he cried. I'll do anything. I just want to get over it. Then you must not say a single prayer for 40 days, even in a crisis. Nor should you obey God in any way. Do not do any good deeds for anyone on earth. Above all, you must not mention God's name or give voice to any form of good intention. If you follow these instructions scrupulously, I shall be able to devise some bit of magic to achieve your goal. Well, the young man really wanted to get over this disease of infatuation and unrequited love, so he did everything the magician told him. In 40 days, he returned to the dark, mysterious shack where the magician lived and paid a great deal of money, all he had for a talisman, but it didn't work. Well, you didn't follow my instructions, the magician said sourly. Some good has come into being through you in the last 40 days. I did nothing, the young man protested. I swear it. I went all 40 days without thinking of God. I did not answer Lori's list on who can help. I did no one a good turn. I did not say a single kind word. I refrained from making any sacred action. I ran from anything that came close to goodness. I give you my word. Can you imagine begging yourself out of being good? Okay, well, think, my son. Think, all you people out there. You must have done something, just a tiny thing. Otherwise, this talisman would have worked for you. The young man shook his head. He went back over the last 40 days, but there was nothing he could think of that would break the spell, unless. All of a sudden he said, could it be? Don't you wonder? One day when I was walking down the road to work, I tripped over a rock, and I thought, I'd better move this out of the way so nobody else trips and falls. Aha! That was a good action, the magician said, and his voice grew stern. Do not ridicule the God whose every command you slighted for 40 days, and yet who, in his generosity, did not let this one small action go to waste. Isn't that a lovely story? Not one small deed that you do for another, not one small deed will go unnoticed by the greater love that is held here in this very room. So you say, how can I be a part of that? What can I do? What part of me can offer a little piece of myself so that I too can feel that I belong. I belong here. I belong here. I open my heart here. I invest my spiritual understanding here. I awaken here. So what part can I give back and allow this continual giving, receiving, and giving and receiving until I am so full that it spills out into the greater community, into the world? You see, what we have here in our community, here in Redding, we have Blessed Reverend Barbara Leger. She has connections, and her whole centers are in the Ukraine. So we pray here for what's going on in the Ukraine right now. I want to emphasize that so importantly to you, that we have these connections, we have these divine connections as our message in the world continues to grow. And do you know this idea of seva? Thank you to Dr. James Golden for investing our center, being the testing ground for bringing that out of the ashram into our sanctuary of truth. Now it has spread through all the organizations, and they all have seva. When you check on the websites, they have, where can you serve? Where is your heart going to invest in this act of love and selfless service? So the opportunity is to invest yourself, to pay attention to what kind of needs you have, yes, of course, to not come to a place and give of yourself when you're feeling empty, but to come in those times and let us fill you up and let us support you in those moments. And when you are filled, you allow yourself to join in the atmosphere here, feeling nurtured and held and loved through the teaching, through the guidance, through the prayer. I got these notes, I'm not even looking at them because I keep having these imprints. This was so powerful last week, just for an example. Jan Rowan is a member, and her daughter passed away, and it was tender. But what was so powerful were the prayer groups that lined up from here, and those were started by Sally Foster. She ignited this idea of coming together in prayer group. And so what did I witness but the extension of that and the families that grew together? So there was rows of the prayer groups just holding consciousness, holding Jan as she grieved the loss of her daughter. And I thought, that's powerful. That's what this community has done by means of someone saying, I want to invest in opening these prayer groups. And so Jan was surrounded by love and grace and support by her sisters. And then through that, the husbands arranged the chairs and created the space. You see, it just trickles out. How can I help? How can I serve? How can I be here with my full heart? No strings attached. I just want to make this better for someone who is grieving a loss. Michael Bordeaux, I put a little message out. Could you help with the sound at the service next week? Within a minute, it would be my honor. Does he get anything other than a greater glory of God flowing through him, knowing that he answered that call, he answered that service in that moment? It's rich. It's so contagious, this idea of investing ourselves, not to bury ourselves into the needs of our own heart, but to reach out a little bit more every time and to revitalize yourself through this offering of selfless service. There's a Sufi saying that says, always, always give from the overflow of your well, but not from its depth. You see, if you are in a place where you need to be served too, allow that. That is what we are here for. Our hearts must be open to understand the spiritual privilege and the spiritual practice of giving selflessly. It's allowing ourselves to recognize one another's needs, to recognize the needs of the center aren't for us to get out of doing something. Okay, do you hear that? It's not because we don't want to do it. It's because we want to invite more people into the fold. So interestingly enough, when I said, okay, I'd like you all to create a poster with your team's name on it. How so? How big? How small? When do we have them up? Do we put them up now? Do we carry them in? Do we walk with them? I'm on 3 teams. What do I do now? I don't know. I just know that part. God told me. And then we'll see. So you get to play with it. You see, it's a continual experience unfolding here, and I'm not responsible. But again, we turn back to that idea, wherever I serve, let me serve with open heart, with deep compassion. And we let go of any kind of results. This is where I am. I'm letting go of any kind of result. And I'm just allowing us to allow these moments together in celebration of our community, of the good that we see, to be a devotion to God as you have dedicated your tireless hours to this one. I remember a few months ago when we were going to give the plaque to Dr. James. The weather was kind of lousy the day before, it was raining, and the landscape was here to make it beautiful out there. And I remember we were going to be leaving, but Jean Wolpat showed up and she said, I just need to do this little bit more. Just a little bit more. Let me fix this up just a little bit more. And you stand back in awe of that. It's so incredibly moving when you realize we had vandalism. You go out there now, those statues grew bigger. Redding, you're not messing with our community. We just got bigger. You know, it's the way, you know, and in all of that, great forgiveness took place. We didn't wallow. We just allowed the gifts that flowed through us to create even a greater idea of ourselves here in this community. So when I think of all the different various teams, and you will be meeting them in a few moments, you know, Reverend Mary had that idea of, we kept hearing, we need to reach out in the community. And she went with Hazel and to witness feeding the homeless. And she saw that people needed shoes, and that shoes were a big deal. And so all of a sudden, this whole idea of shoes for souls has exploded. It's a wonderful opportunity that has drawn our community in and then out into the greater community. My office stinks like shoes, but I'm not complaining because I recognize that there's a team of people that come in and refresh those shoes. And so I'm just a temporary holding place for those shoes. It's very attractive. And then through that came Reverend Barbara and Reverend Pam Sanchez, opening the idea to let us do some food as well. Oh my gosh, it just keeps exploding. And then this is so interesting. This is how delicate, this is the way the Seva, just kind of infiltrates, okay? Last week I started to go to a meeting and somebody goes, the girls' toilet's plugged. I'm thinking, oh, why me? Find Mary. Oh, she's in Florida. Okay. Make sure Mary hears this, because I don't resent the fact that she's not here, and this would have been her talk, but the idea that the toilet wasn't doing what toilets should do, and it was the girls' bathroom, I was willing to go in, but not until I was manned with Fred and Ray. I mean, those guys are trying to eat their lunch, but I'm like, excuse me. Remember Seva and selfless service, the toilet's clogged. But lo and behold, when we walked in, it just stopped as soon as it saw me. It started flowing again. And so I got all the glory in that moment. But that's how Fred operates immediately. And he calls his buddies in. They manned themselves with a plunger, and they were ready to serve in that moment. And you know, I can frequent this place throughout the week at any hour. And I can see Diana and Jillian and Sally. I can see these people. They're in, they're out. Carolyn, when I saw her last week, now she's in the prayer groups, she came to service to set the social hall for all of us. She sets the tables on Saturday. She's helped by a beautiful team. But what got me was she was really integral in part of holding that ceremony for Jan. And Charlie and I came back to sign checks. We did it, Sylvia, last week on Sunday, following our instructions. But we came when we thought everybody would be gone. What remained was a single person mopping the floors at 6:30 at night. She'd been here all day, quietly mopping with the sweetest smile on her face. And she goes, oh, just surprised to see us, but she was lost in the Seva. May your heart be touched that much, lost in the glory of serving the one, mopping the floors, leaving the space so pristine that no matter who walked into it, they were ready for God. They were ready for that one. You are a part of that. You are the ones that create this energy and this lovely juice that flows through our center. Now, I could go on and on each one of those board members that serves our team with such heart and passion. And Charlie, is everybody okay out there? Okay, all right. Ready to help? You know, Charlie comes in, you know, he could be driving back from Sacramento, and I have the yoga chairs pushed back for our practice during the week, and he'll come before he comes home, and he'll try to set the chairs. You know, and it's like everything is done with, how may I serve? How can I make this place always God ready? Always, God, ready. And I could go on listing and naming and touching every single person here as my eyes glance out at you, knowing the work that you've done. But we are here now in closing just to simply celebrate all the unselfish acts that we have done to allow this place to shine. We've allowed ourselves to free up from the ego and the attachments and the feeling like you've done good work. We know we've done good work when we shut the doors and lock them for the evening. We know we've done good work when we drive onto our property and we just see the beauty of the grounds and the careful attention to every stripe in the parking lot. This is a beautiful sanctuary, anointed with years and years and years of selfless service, and that's because of you. And that's because of love, and that's what attracts grace, and that's what love is, and that's where God is asking us to serve. So you apply these teachings, you apply what you learn here, and you work with that idea forever flowing through you, no matter what it is. If you're polishing the floors, you're thinking of God's grace moving through you, that you are now an instrument of this one, and you're offering a piece of your heart into this greater good. There's no self-centeredness here. There's no reason to rename it in any other way except that it is selfless service, an act of love, an act of grace. Bhagavad Gita says, through devotion, he recognizes me, how great I am, and who I truly am. He enters immediately into me. This is from the sacred ancient scriptures. This is what Jesus pointed to as well, this idea of sacred service. You want to make sure as you enter that state that you're offering your service for the sake of one another here. For no other reasons, you're offering it to God. Start with a prayer, set your intention. I leave you with this beautiful idea, since it had come from the lineage of the Siddha organization. Swami Muktananda says this: Seva is not done only with your hands or only with the force of your intellect. Your inner state and your understanding are constantly put to test. You see, how you approach seva is constantly a revelation to you of where your heart is and what you need to do. So over and over again, remember these 5 things I leave you with today as we begin to celebrate who we are together in a community. Number 1, scrutinize the attitude with which you offer your seva. Scrutinize your attitude. Be very honest. What is the intention behind your seva, your selfless service? Number 3, what are your expectations for the fruit of your service? How willing, number 4, are you to offer your service without reward? And finally, take a close look at the way you go about performing your service. Again and again, ask yourself if your actions are pure. Are my actions pure? And you're working to align it with this greater inspiration. Allow yourself to be in the heart of absolute pure seva, selfless service to the one. Now, in a few moments, this place is going to explode. You're going to say, what the heck happened? Enjoy it. This is a moment to enjoy yourself. But first, we're going to invite the ushers forward. The choir will come forward. I think they have a song for you. Following that, I will start to invite these teams forward, and there's going to be a hoopla and a hollering and a stamping of their feet, and they're going to want you to come over to their poster in the end of all of this. The board has created a beautiful buffet for you to partake in today as their service to each one of you. So with that, we'll have the choir prepare, and you are preparing